to Ignite Success. I'm your host, Snowden McFall, 25-year professional speaker, 6-time author, and women's coach. And with me today is Dr. Patricia Baxter, and she is an expert in emotional intelligence. Welcome, Pat.
I'm glad to be here.
So tell us a little bit about your background, because I know you were in corporate America for quite some time, too. Tell us a little bit about your background.
And prior to that, I was with the New York City Board of Education.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, one of the administrators for actually it was the largest reading program for Hispanic students in the city.
Oh, how fabulous. That's awesome.
And then I transitioned to a corporate environment and was in corporate for another 25, 30 years.
Oh, that's awesome. And you worked, Winn-Dixie, was that one of the places you worked?
That's one of the places. Now it's known as Southeastern Grocers.
Right.
And before that, organizations like Citicorp, Federal Express, things like that.
Terrific. So you have quite a rich background.
Yeah, it's mostly in technology and finance.
Oh, fascinating. So emotion is not a 4-letter word. I love that. So let's talk about that.
Well, that actually is the title of a chapter I contributed to a woman's anthology about 2 years ago. And it really it comes from an experience I had as a child. And we lived on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And we had an uncle who lived with us, and he would very often say, "Patty, you shouldn't be so emotional."
Oh.
And I went, and you hear this enough that you realize maybe having emotions is not a good thing. It's bad.
He tried to discourage you from being yourself.
Yes. From feeling anything.
Right.
And that doesn't always work out too well.
No, and it certainly doesn't work with children. I mean, that was one of the strengths of Mr. Rogers, is he got kids in touch with their emotions.
And that, there are many programs now around emotional intelligence for children.
Right.
And it's very encouraging to see. For me, I had to wait maybe 30 years before I realized it was okay to have emotions.
Wow.
And that's part of what spurred me to study emotions and emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. One of the things I have discovered is that we're human.
Oh, of course.
And our brain is literally neurologically built to use emotion.
Right.
And when the emotions appear, we have physiological responses, neurological responses, and sometimes not too logical responses.
Well, so I know you've written 2 books. You have the book Cool Change, Turning Emotions into Leadership Strengths. And then most recently, 101 Ways to Grow an Awesome and Resilient Team Using Emotional Intelligence. So we were talking before you came on that there's a great story of someone who used one of these techniques in his workplace. Tell us about that.
Well, this is a manager. He has a lot of experience. Mm-hmm. And I worked with him in an organization. And we met for lunch. And I had sent him one of these. And he confessed to me that he looked at a couple of these suggestions, ways, and he said, I realized one of them said, look at the eyes of your colleagues. Look at the eyes of your team. Can you tell me, without looking, what the color of their eyes is? Mm-hmm. And he said, and I was very embarrassed because I could not tell you. Even though I've been working with these people for 4 years, I could not tell you the color of their eyes.
Wow. Wow.
And one of the things that I say in here is that's a connection.
Right.
Remembering what someone looks like, what the color of their eyes is. And one of the things this book says is emotional intelligence is really very simple. It's connecting with people using emotions. Mm-hmm. And something like looking at someone's face. One of the things I put in here is, make sure that when you're speaking with someone, that you're taking the whole person in.
Right.
That it's not just your words coming out of your mouth.
That's right.
Listen, look at the body language, look at whether they're looking at you or they're looking at the ceiling. And that will tell you a lot about how that person is feeling. And emotional intelligence is all about making sure that you are in tune and you perceive and you receive and you utilize emotions, your own and theirs.
So another component of emotional intelligence is self-awareness, correct?
Totally. That's where it begins and ends. When I coach leaders, I warn them up front. It's going to be all about you. It's self-awareness is, as I always say, begins and ends with you.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot work with someone deeply. You cannot really concern yourself with other people unless you know your own emotions. How are you feeling?
Right.
And that's kind of a shock to some of my clients to ask, how are you feeling about this?
That's right. So how can people get in touch with you? What is your website?
It's www.patriciabaxter.com, all one word. You can also get in touch with me, of course, in LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook as well. And these books are available at your website as well? Yes, they are.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for being with us and for sharing more knowledge about emotions. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.